No, Ramon, there's certain words whenever I hear, I always think to myself, well, that's going to be a bullshit story. And one of them, I suppose, is impeachments. I think the US have ruined the impeachment process for me for all time. Every time I hear the words impeachment, I always think of the impeachment trials of, our beloved, glorious leader with the orange skin, who we can't name on, YouTube because we'll probably get banned. But that guy had a real hard time with impeachment. And then you look at the hard time that guy got, and then you look at the bullshit that happened in the Jacob Zuma era when everybody tried to impeach that guy once a week. And his standard response was, not going to happen. So you generally kind of tend to look at the impeachment process and think, it's kind of a bit of bullshit. And I suppose it's with this in mind that the news that Cyril Ramaphosa has been put before Parliament for an impeachment process, that when I originally read this article, I did think, well, that's going to be a bit of a waste of time, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's your view, Ramon?
Yeah, so me too. I also thought it would be an extremely waste of time because, as you well said, Jacob Zuma went through like 4 or 5 of these things and nothing happened to him at the end until the ANC itself recalled him. But interestingly, I forgot about this. There were new rules for a proposed what's called an 89 motion, which is the removal of the president. And the new rules were actually adopted in November 2018. So while Cyril was president of the ANC, but before the national election, to actually give better effect to Section 89 of the Constitution, which is to remove the president. And these rules have never been tested before, but ironically, it'll be tested on the man who sort of put them in the first place.
Mm. Yeah, I think there's a lot of rules that Ramaphosa put in place. So if you remember, he also put in place the Party Funding Act, which basically limited what they could take, and that's obviously that act ultimately bankrupted the ANC
Yeah.
because they couldn't loot anymore. They had to declare it all, so that bankrupted them. So kind of own goal on that one. And now it seems that he put in some rules because of his predecessor that's also now going to be an own goal. So these rules are basically says that he is going to be put to a parliamentary test around whether or not he's violated the constitution. Specifically, that members of the cabinet or deputy members cannot engage in other earning activities or other work whilst being appointed to cabinet, basically.
Yeah.
And so I suppose the allegation, we have to say allegation, is that because of Cyril's game farm, that would class as independent work, and that independent work means that he's violating his basically a separation of office and personal interest. It's conflicts of interest. They I suppose they're going to claim. What's your view?
So we still don't know how much was stolen from him, but he had lots of forex under the account in his study or something like that on his farm. And when it was stolen, it was like 2 years ago. Then they caught the guys, but there wasn't any police case opened up. And when Cyril was questioned, he said, "No, it's from game sales. All this cash was from game sales." So I don't. First of all, I don't think it's from game sales. But if it is from game sales, that does seem to me like other income derived from business outside of the position of the president of South Africa. I mean, those rules are important because you don't want the president to be a businessman while he's running the policy center of government. So those rules make absolute sense. But because you said they're from game sales, the money, the proceeds, then one would think that yes, that is work outside of the executive, and therefore that is a problem for Cyril because that is definitely not allowed. So this motion was put in by ATM, which is probably a front for Ace Bakashule and a few other people within the ANC as well. Let us not forget that. And ATM also say that he did not report the matter to the police when this robbery took place, which is also illegal for the most part. He used his own intelligence services and his own police officers and his own VIP protection team to deal with this matter in and of itself. So those are the two real claims against the president, and those claims are not very important. What is important is that this new process will now be followed. So there is an independent panel that will be appointed, and if we just go through the article together, once this panel is appointed, it will conduct an assessment of the motion to dismiss him within 30 days, and it will have to advise the Speaker of Parliament as to whether there is sufficient evidence to show that Ramaphosa committed any of the violations in the ATM motion. And if that is the case, then Parliament really has sort of no other option but to open the impeachment proceedings against him. And then I'm sure it'll go to a
Mm.
vote or some other thing.
Yeah, but I mean, even if it goes through a vote, the ANC have a majority and they'll
Yeah.
all just back the president. One assumes, now this is where it gets interesting, in that Jacob Zuma in his tenure did actually have the backing of the entire party. One of the things we've recently seen, specifically with the RET faction and there's some Ramaphosa faction, is that Ramaphosa no longer has the backing of the entire party. So it is possible that the RET people, whatever you want to term them as, may use it as an opportunity to get rid of Cyril.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Which we welcome. Like Cyril must go. Hashtag Morning Shot has always said Cyril must go because he's the only thing that's holding the ANC together. And together is a very loose term to describe this. So I hope this is a very,
Mm.
very successful, and I hope he is completely removed through the impeachment proceedings against him. And yeah, I mean, I have my sincere doubts that it will happen, of course, but it would
No,
be really
I don't think
great
it's
if
going
it
to happen.
did. I know
So,
you're too
so
factual.
let's stop and think about.
Yes.
Let's stop and think about this for just 1 second. Okay, first, I think that the independent party or the independent panel probably will find that there is a breach of conduct there somewhere, because as we know about this independent panel, it includes parties that aren't just the ANC. So it's going to be very difficult not to find it. But the first step, even before it hits Parliament, is going to go before the Speaker. And if you know anything about the current Speaker, she's an ANC stooge. And when I say an ANC stooge, I mean a proper ANC stooge. So I can't see it, man. Like, and even if she looks at it and goes, "Oh, okay, I kind of have to do something," like, I think the ANC will probably fall behind their guy, even though it's an opportunity for the factionalists to get rid of him. I can't see it happening personally. But if it does happen,
Yeah.
that's it.
Well, Byron,
ANC's finished.
I'm afraid, I mean, during the course of the article itself, Parliament has actually said that the National Speaker has referred the proposed motion to the independent panel of experts already. So it looks like the Speaker is either following the rules, which I doubt, or she's like, yeah, Cyril, fuck you. Let's have a little
No,
game of hot
it's got to
potato.
come back to her. So when they
No,
look
that's
at it,
fair.
they make the recommendation to her, and then she makes the recommendation to the House. So even if she has followed the rules and gone, okay, here's the independent panel, if they recommend to her that it goes before the impeachment process, will she do anything about it or lose the memo? I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I have my doubts. That's all I'm saying.
I also have my doubts. But what is interesting, though, is Cyril has been very flippant on this question of the Fala Fala $4 million thing. He's like, oh, there's, it's sub judice, or it's under investigation, or I can't talk about it. He can't really do that if there's a parliamentary inquiry into his fitness to hold office because he's like
Mm.
the constitutionalist, right? He is the reformer. He is the person that follows processes and loves processes. So he can't be so flippant
Supposedly.
about, yeah, exactly. So he can't be very flippant about this process into
Mm.
him. And if they do call him to give evidence or something like that, I wonder how he's going to react and what skeletons are going to fall out of any potential, maybe not testimony, it's not a court of law, but any potential thing that does arise outside of this independent panel. It's going to be interesting for him to see the reaction from the president on what they actually say, should they find that there's evidence there.
Mm. I think it's going to be like you. I think it's going to be interesting, but for me personally, I think we know what the president's like when the cameras aren't rolling, and we've seen that in the whole Pala Pala type scenario. When he was originally approached in it, it was like almost, "How dare you ask me?" He got very defensive because it was something relating to him personally. And whenever he's been, had the question raised of him in Parliament directly, he gets very defensive, and he
Mm-hmm.
basically tells everybody to mind your own business. And so the rule follower, the constitutionalist, like, that's not the president we've seen of late. And it's like, it's all good and fine to be that president when it's not relating to you and you're Mr. Clean. But now that he's not Mr. Clean and they're coming after him personally, yeah, he's quite defensive. So what would it be like if they now put him before emotional no confidence? It's going to be interesting, man. It's going to be interesting.
We'll wait and see. And as for who the panel actually is, well, it must be constituted of 3 fit and proper, competent, experienced, and respected South African citizens who collectively possess the necessary legal and other competencies and experience
Well, that
to
can't be the
perform.
ANC, can it?
So no ANC cadre can be on this panel essentially. And it may include a judge. So Byron, I'm thinking maybe you and I should like volunteer for this and be on the panel. We are competent, we are proper, we
Yeah,
are
and
maybe
we
not
are legal.
maybe not respected, but we are experienced. So we could be the panel to tell the world that yeah, Ramaphosa is absolutely. There we go.
Thanks, Nelson.
So that could
Thanks,
be
Nelson.
our recommendation once we finish our work with the panel.
Well, I'm glad that Nelson was able to get his view in there because we have had a lot of people asking how Nelson's enjoying the French countryside. So it's good to see that he's still with us.
Our foreign correspondent is back from his summer holidays. So yes, Nelson will be back on the channel from now on. But yes, interesting. I want to see who's on the panel when it does happen. So from September 1st, that panel will have to be constituted. So we still have a few more weeks. And let's see how Squirrel squirms out of this one. Interesting times. Hopefully he fails.
I don't think that we should divorce this article, though, from what's happening at the end of the year. 1st of September, they're going to have the panel constituted. They're going to give their findings very close to what happens at the end of the year, which is the ANC's elective conference. So if I were Ramaphosa, I'd be having a few sleepless nights, but that's just me.
Yeah, that's just you. But you have to feel a sense of shame to have sleepless nights. I don't think our president has that. Anyway,
Clearly.
that's the news for today. Thanks for watching, everyone. Later.
Cheers. Bye.